This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year we're saying thank you, therapists. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories, millions of journeys, and behind every one is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take a step forward. Moments in therapy, like the right question, a safe space to cry, or a small win, can change lives. This World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who make them possible, while showing how easy it is to get guidance from a licensed therapist online with BetterHelp. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who've helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PFF. That's betterhelp.com/PFF. All right, next up, we got Florida at number 5, Texas A&M, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Dalton, we have, I think, the most loaded night slate I've ever seen.
Oh, we're going to be up all night.
There's 6 games in this night slate that we're previewing. 6. Usually when we get to the night slate, we're like, okay, we have 2 games left to preview. We have 6 more on this preview show to preview.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's a stack. No light slates.
No
light slates.
Good Lord. All right, we got Florida at number 5, Texas A&M, though, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Storyline to know is, can Florida slay a dragon from the Lone Star State in back-to-back weeks? So the Gators started the year 1-3. Head coach Billy Napier was facing immense pressure, delivered some hope to the program, and that came this past weekend. Florida took down 9th-ranked Texas by a final score of 29-21. The Gators have another chance to beat another top 10 team from the state of Texas this week as they travel to number 5 Texas A&M, who's a perfect 5-0 on the season.
Well, all of a sudden, A&M and Mike Elko, I think there's even a quote from him floating around that he says that Florida is the most talented team they have played so far. And considering they've played Notre Dame,
Auburn,
and they've played Auburn, and even, obviously, Florida's got more talent than Mississippi State, but that's still a darn good football team you played last week. That says a lot. And look, Florida may be 2-3, but as they showed last week, they're a threat. Yep. They're absolutely a threat. And even the Miami game, their defense kept them in that game for a long, long time. The LSU game, they only gave up 13 points on defense to LSU. So, look, this Gator team, if you take them lightly, it's the same thing that happened last year to a couple of teams. You're right. They are the Dragon Slayer, and they can beat you any given week because they do have – it's a lot of young talent, but they do have that much talent that can beat you any given week.
And PFF's power rankings, you can find at PFF.com, which, it takes into account your what you've done so far, too, but – it also takes into account talent a lot. Florida, even though they're 2-3, is still number 25 in the power ranking.
I mean, they haven't lost games in super dominant fashion. They were in the Miami game really until the last 10-12 minutes or so, and their defense just ran out of gas. And Miami's just so dominant in the trenches. And again, the LSU game, that was pretty much all on Lagway, right? Their defense gave up 13 points in that game. So I think you're looking at a team that is incredibly dangerous. So I think that's what you're looking at with Florida and A&M. I think Mike Elko knows, don't take it lightly. And they haven't. And A&M, I think it still holds that they have not played a complete 60 minutes of their best football. Florida might make them do it this week at home.
Absolutely. So you have the Texas A&M offense, which in recent weeks we thought this would be an elite run game going into the year. It wasn't that for the first couple of weeks, but over the last few weeks, Dalton, they have run the hell out of the football.
And I think when you look at the way that they've done it, I think we thought there might be more diversity to this run game this year, with Colin Klein as the offensive coordinator. But to me, there hasn't necessarily been that. I think what you're getting is that in this run game, they've just decided, hey, we have to be the more physical team out here. We've got one of the biggest offensive lines in the country, one of the most experienced offensive lines in the country. Let's take Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels and Reuben Owens, and let's run inside zone, and let's see if teams really want to get after it. And the last couple weeks, they've been outstanding running between the tackles. Now, You get a different challenge here with Florida because their defensive line, a lot like Auburn. So, I mean, it gives you some encouragement that, look, they ran down the pipe on Auburn and had success. That's an elite run defense team. You're getting it again with Florida. Check out this Florida defensive line, okay? Actually, I should say run defense between the tackles, which is a heavy part of this defensive line. 4th in the nation in run defense grade between the tackles. 11th in yards per carry allowed. 13th in explosive runs allowed, okay, or 13th fewest, I should say there. So what you're getting at here is a stout Florida defensive line. You want a crazy stat? 9 different Florida defensive linemen have a run defense grade of at least 70. 9 of them. When you talk about star edge players, George Gums and Tyreek Sapp, you talk about monsters on the interior. I'll tell you a guy I really like watching this Florida defense more this week, the sophomore nose tackle, Micah Burrow. 6'4", 350, right over your center, brick wall. Micah Burrow's another one, Jeremiah McLeod. I mean, they have just got monsters all over the place on this D-line. There is so much size, and they can get into either a 4-man or a 5-man front when you need to. If you throw tight ends out there, they're going to put 5 of these guys out there, and they're going to let their linebackers clean it up behind them. But I think you are going to get an absolute war between the trenches, between Florida's defensive line and A&M's offensive line, and these backs are going to have to work through some contact because they're going to feel it pretty early. We're going to see this week, once again, Auburn, we expected a tough matchup in the trenches. A&M won it. They grounded out slowly. Mississippi State, we liked A&M with the advantage there because Mississippi State's better on the back end than the front end. This week, boy, I'm telling you, there's going to be a war in the trenches. If A&M's just going to line up and go, boom, handoff, inside zone, well, that 5-on-5 up front, what that's going to look like, you're going to have a lot of fun watching NFL-caliber players in the trenches in this game.
Yeah, I'm looking at Florida's offense, and really, has Dallas Wilson, a true freshman wide receiver, has he unlocked this Florida passing game? Because Florida's passing game was a mess going into last week's game against Texas. The Gators averaged just negative .183 EPA per pass up until week 6. That was the 5th worst in the Power 4. So it's understandable, Dalton, when DJ Lagway came out and said, hey, this offense is going to pop soon and it's going to be really hard to contain very, very soon. Plenty of people looked at him and said, okay, sure, DJ, let's see what happens. He probably said that, though, because he knew that he was getting Dallas Wilson back from injury. The true freshman wide receiver made his college debut against Texas last week, missed the first 4 games, though, with a foot injury. The former top 50 recruit shined, catching 6 of his 7 targets for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns with a perfect 158.3 passer rating when targeted. The Gators averaged .243 EPA per pass in the upset victory to go along with a 73.6 receiving grade, their best marks all season, even better than the Long Island game they had in week 1, too. And that was all against a Texas defense that's among the nation's top 15 teams in pass rush grade and coverage grade this year. Texas A&M is 29th in pass rush grade and 44th in coverage grade, and they need to make sure that Dallas Wilson and the other true freshman receiver, too, and Verno Brown III, do not beat them like they did against the Longhorns.
What a duo they have. 2 true freshmen who we believe are 2 of the 4 best true freshman receivers in the country right now, along with DeCorian Moore at Oregon and Malachi Toney, who Florida saw a couple weeks ago for Miami. I mean, those 2 guys, you think about this year and then you think about next year, one more year with DJ Lagway, it could be special. And Dallas Wilson did change the dynamic of this offense. I think the other thing that changed the dynamic of this offense is something I mentioned in the review show of the game against Texas. Florida came out with the intent to run the football. Now, 4.3 yards per carry isn't spectacular, but it's more about the idea of this offense needing layers in it and not asking DJ Lagway to carry you constantly. 13 play-action passes last week for Florida was a season high. I think that really played a big part. I think Billy Napier finally got into the game plan that he wanted to. I think the first half especially was really good for this team schematically. I think they're going to have to do it again because, against this A&M defense, you still don't want to, especially against all the looks Mike Elko can throw at you with zone coverage and blitzing and things like that. You don't want to just drop back and throw the football, especially with a young quarterback on the road. So I do think it's still going to be a matter of Florida running the football first, and then we get to, in that second layer, getting the ball to Wilson and Brown, and this offense can be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dalton, last week, Florida beat a top 10 team from Texas in Texas. Will they beat a top 5 team from Texas and Texas A&M this week?
I think we are going to get a battle. I'll tell you what, Florida, probably the best 2 and 3 team in the country, right? And again, they didn't get blasted front to back by Miami. They lost 20 to 13 or 20 to 10 against LSU. Turnovers really hurt them in that game. I think this defense, the way that they've played, this defense is really one of the better units in the country. Probably top 20, we think, if we did some rankings. It's a really good defense with a really good D-line. I think this is going to be another ugly physical game like Texas A&M has played the last couple games against Auburn, Mississippi State. I am going to take Marcel Reed and the Aggies to get it done at home. I've got it 24-20. I think you get another close game. And Florida, at the end of the day, look, they're playing really good teams week in and week out. The schedule's tough. I just think on the road, this one might be a little too tall. And A&M still not playing 100% their best football. If they get that finally in this game, especially with both dimensions of their offense, then it could be a little bit wider. And we have obviously yet till now mentioned Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion and the things they're doing on the outside. So we've got dynamic receivers, a war in the trenches. I think a really close defensive football game. But give me A&M 24-20.
I have A&M winning too. I have it a little bigger. I have 31-20. Texas A&M beating Florida. I think both quarterbacks could take advantage of these secondaries in this game, and I have more trust right now in Marcel Reed than I do in DJ Lagway. But I do think Florida keeps it close for most of the game. But I think Texas A&M's balance on offense ultimately wins this game at home too, which I think is big for Texas A&M with that crowd too. So I have Texas A&M winning, continuing their undefeated season with a 31-20 win over Florida.